Hello and welcome to Doc to Me. My name is Heather.
And I'm Kathleen.
And this week we are covering Team Foxcatcher. Back to true crime.
Yeah, I really liked this one.
This Netflix film is directed by John Greenhall and was released April 29, 2016. This is one of those stories that's a prime example of why you should never trust a rich weirdo. He really reminds me of Robert Durst, but just not a serial killer.
Yeah,
Allegedly. Allegedly.
I got a lot of those vibes. Definitely.
It's like the same weird quirks and...
There were too many signs
that
they just overlooked because, again, he was a rich white dude. It all could have been prevented. And I will say this is the first documentary that I've seen since Dear Zachary that has really, really made me feel like I connected with the person.
Yeah.
And left me devastated.
It was home movies that they really used to their advantage.
Oh yeah, it was so many. You really got a look into their whole life. Yeah. And just, I don't know, made me sad.
So I'm sure we've all heard of the Dupont family. I would put it up there with the Kennedys as far as wealthy American families go. John Dupont was born November 22nd, 1938 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The youngest of 4 children of William Dupont Jr. and Jean Lister Austin. He grew up in Lister Hall, a mansion built in 1922 in Newtown Square, Pennsylvania by his maternal grandfather on more than 200 acres of land given to his parents at their wedding by his maternal grandfather. That's a wedding gift.
I don't think my parents gave me anything for my wedding.
Not even an acre?
Not even an acre.
Not 200 acres?
A fucking mansion? No, I didn't get shit.
Both of his parents' families had immigrated from Europe to the United States at the beginning of the 19th century and became highly successful, which that's kind of an understatement.
Just a little.
Yeah. The DuPonts, yeah. During the 1920s and 30s, the couple acquired more land and developed Lister Hall Farm for thoroughbred breeding, showing, and racing.
That's when you know you really have money.
Yeah.
When you can do fucking horses.
Yeah. Oof. His mother retained Lister Hall Farm after the couple divorced in 1941 when John was 2. Marriage isn't going great, but maybe having a 4th kid will really bring us together.
Turns out it won't. Children never solve anything.
No. His mom added a dairy herd of Guernseys. Does that sound right? I don't know. I don't know cows.
We'll have to look into it.
And bred Welsh ponies at the farm. So they have horses, cows, and ponies. You can't get richer than ponies.
No, it's they have serious money.
It was too far back to have an island, so you just buy ponies. He had 2 older sisters, Jean and Evelyn, which
I couldn't find.
So they named the daughter after the mother, and they have a son named after the dad. That's
they'll
have the son later. Sorry, but yeah, that's
when you have money, you name your children after yourself.
But yeah, I guess if you're a Dupont.
And
that's
also,
fine.
If you have absolutely no money, you name your children after yourself and throw in a junior.
Yeah. It only makes sense if you're super successful.
Or super, super unsuccessful. I could never imagine naming my children after myself.
No.
I don't like myself enough. And I couldn't find any information about how, because he talks about how he basically grew up alone or whatever, and I couldn't find any. I was like, well, fuck, he's got 4 siblings.
But I think it was one of those where it was a last ditch thing, trying
right,
to save the marriage.
Yeah, I couldn't find any dates for when his siblings were born, other than obviously the one from when his dad, remarried. His
siblings' names don't pop up in blue, so. So he had 2 older sisters, Jean and Evelyn, and an older brother, Henry E.I. Dupont, and a younger half-brother, William Dupont III, born of their father's 2nd marriage. So you would think if you're going to be an asshole and name your kid after yourself, you do it with the 1st marriage? But no, he waits. These kids aren't good enough. I'll try again.
2nd family.
Really fuck with the older kids' heads. You weren't good enough for the name.
Yeah, I had 2 sons already, but we'll go ahead and give it to the 3rd one.
John graduated from Haverford School in 1957. He attended the University of Pennsylvania and withdrew before completing his freshman year. He later attended college in Miami, Florida. where he studied under and was mentored by scientist Oscar T. Ori to go from Pennsylvania to Miami. Miami must have been jolting.
Yeah, quite a shock in culture.
Like, that's crazy.
Back in Florida.
He graduated from the University of Miami in 1965 with a Bachelor of Science degree in zoology.
Yeah, apparently he was really into some things other than wrestling.
And then later would go on to complete a doctorate in natural science from Villanova University in 1973. So, fucking nerd.
Yeah.
During his graduate work, Dupont participated in several scientific expeditions to study and identify species of birds in the Philippines and South Pacific.
Yeah, I read that he played a huge part in identifying a bunch of different species. I'm like, holy shit, this guy really likes birds.
As an ornithologist, Dupont is credited with the discovery of 24 species of birds.
That's a lot of birds. Like, yeah. I was shocked that there were 24 that he alone was part of. Like, that's just amazing.
And then he founded the Delaware Museum of Natural History in 1957. So, I mean, he seems to be doing good work with money.
Yeah, he's, and he's doing a lot of good so far, just with his birds. Should have stuck with science.
Yeah. As a young man, he served on the board, helping guide the institution towards opening in 1972. After having been part of scientific expeditions, he served as director of the museum for many years. You would not expect it.
No, he definitely, I feel like he should have stuck with his true calling.
Yes. At the age of 45 on September 3rd, 1983, Dupont married 29-year-old Gail Wenck, an occupational therapist. That's a bit of an age gap. They met after he injured his hand in an auto accident, and they lived together for less than 6 months.
So I also read that he apparently, when he did he say 45? At some point, he fell off a horse and injured his testicles.
No, that was Dave's brother.
Really?
Said that's what happened. Like, he said it on a radio interview or something.
Oh, because I was like, that's interesting. But they talked about how, that was the reason for his androgynous,
yeah.
And I was like, he didn't seem androgynous at all. Like, have these people seen an androgynous person? Like, no. Oh, those bullshit liars.
So, Dupont filed for divorce when they had been married for 10 months. Wenck sued Dupont for $5 million, claiming he had pointed a gun at her and tried to push her into a fireplace.
I believe it.
Yeah. The divorce became final in 1987, and Dupont's will excluded her from inheriting any of his estate. In 1987, it was estimated that John Dupont was worth $200 million, which would be like a little over $480 million today.
That is no small change.
No. So now we get to the victim, Dave Schultz, which not to be confused with David Schultz, the professional wrestler who smacked the shit out of 2020 reporter John Stossel. Have you seen that clip?
I have not.
John Stossel's interviewing about wrestling being fake, and David Schultz just smacks the fuck out of him, busts his eardrum, and was like, "Is that fake? Is that like fake?" John Stossel hits the ground, goes to get back up, and he hits him with the other. It's such a funny clip to watch.
You don't want to fuck with a wrestler.
No.
Ever.
He did have like this asshole attitude, like, is it fake? Dude, you don't come up to these big ass dudes asking that. So this Dave Schultz was born in Palo Alto, California to Dorothy Jean St. Germain, a lot of Jeans, and Philip Gary Schultz. Dave began wrestling in junior high school at David Starr Jordan Middle School in Palo Alto, coached by Robert Hoskins, which I love imagining Bob Hoskins, the actor, like dressed as Mario, training this kid, yelling at him. In 1977, as a senior, he became state champion. That year, he also won both his first national and international wrestling titles. His senior year is considered by most experts as the most successful senior year in U.S. high school wrestling history. That's crazy.
He just seemed like such a nice guy.
Yeah. His brother Mark started competing in sports and gymnastics, winning the Northern California All-Around Gymnastics Championship in his age group. In his junior year, he switched to wrestling, and in his senior year, won state. So their parents must be, like, thrilled with these two.
Some very talented children.
In college, Dave was a 3-time NCAA All-American first at Oklahoma State University and then twice at the University of Oklahoma. How do you switch those two?
Oklahoma.
No. In 1982, he was the 167-pound weight class NCAA champion, defeating Mike Sheets, which that's unfortunate, name, from Oklahoma State University in the finals by a tiebreaker in overtime. Dave won 10 senior national titles over a 19-year span. In international competition, he won a 1983 World Championship and a 1984 Olympic gold medal competing with the U.S. team. He won 4 World Cups and 2 Pan American game titles and is the only American ever to twice win the prestigious tournament in Tbilisi, Georgia. The country.
I imagine.
Together with his brother Mark, they are the only American brothers to win both world and Olympic championships.
Yeah, they were phenomenal.
Yeah. He served as an assistant coach at the University of Oklahoma, Stanford University, and the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and trained 1996 Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle, who would go on to be a professional wrestler. Fascinating fucking life.
Yeah, he definitely had a lot going for him.
Yeah. He even went like the Queen's. Did you ever see Queen's Gambit?
No, I haven't watched it.
Well, in that she like learns Russian so she can figure out like who she's going up against, like what they're saying with the coaches, and he does the same thing.
Right, yeah, no, I thought that was really cool that like he, thought so highly of like the Russian wrestlers that he learned how to speak Russian so that he could, be a part of all of that. It was really cool.
So this leads us all to 1988. John Dupont assumed stewardship of Leaseter Farm, renamed it Foxcatcher Farm, after his father's famed thoroughbred racing stables. So he never lived in like the big house, but as soon as his mom died, then he moves into the main house, which that feels weird.
Yeah, I thought that was weird too. Just like
he keeps most of his mom's animals and shit, and then just builds this huge building for wrestling and training, and starts paying athletes to come live on the farm and train. It was like when his mom died, there was no one there to keep him in check, and he just went all out on this wrestling stuff.
He was definitely out of control in a lot of ways.
But USA Wrestling needs the money and help with training because we can't beat those goddamn Soviets, so they welcomed John in with open arms.
Like they said, like a lot of athletes couldn't continue to compete past a certain age because they had to take care of their families and they had to get jobs that actually fucking supported kids. Yeah, and so, to be able to continue wrestling and, have a life, like, he was doing great things for him. He was like, hey, like, I'm going to pay you. That was a big deal.
He sponsored swimming, track, and triathlons, but wrestling was really what interested him. So at this point, Foxcatcher Farm is 2,000 acres, which that's bonkers.
Yeah.
I've driven through towns smaller than that.
It's a lot of fucking area.
The wrestling building cost like $1 million. It wasn't just a couple of mats. It was a complete facility with 3 50 by 50 mats, a weight room, a locker room, and offices. And then also on all this land, there's like houses scattered throughout for the athletes to live in.
Yeah, it's just like full-on homes.
And then not only that, he's paying the athletes and the coaches to be there, and I'm sure maybe medical staff or something because they're so far away.
Yeah, there were staff members.
That's insane. I've never been so dedicated to an interest.
No, this is like the longest standing hobby I've ever had, and I've definitely not poured millions of dollars into it.
He wants to have the best of the best on his team, so that means calling Dave Schultz, which is great because not only are you getting a phenomenal athlete, but he's also a great coach.
Yeah.
And people want to come here to train because you're getting paid and you can bring your family with you to live there, which is great because seeing all the kids like growing up together.
It was so sweet.
Adorable.
It was just, and that one little kid's like badass little rat tail.
Oh
like,
my God.
Like, that was the best, 80s fucking hair I've ever seen. And it was on a small child.
All that room to run, and there's animals. And
yeah, they were living a life, having really close friends who were, close in age, and you were all growing up together in this like same little property,
going to school together. And,
and they really were living like the idyllic life.
Yeah, how cults should be.
Exactly.
When they're all living on a compound together.
Apparently we just have to join a wrestling cult.
This farm really became like this huge, great big family. They had all those amazing barbecues to go to. I would love to go to one of those.
Yeah, I mean, just
all that food.
The home videos were just, I mean, it was like the perfect life. Like,
yeah.
You know, being there with your family, still being able to train and do your job. And he seemed like such a great guy, too. Mm-hmm. Everyone just kind of was drawn to him because he was a great wrestler, but he was also just a really great person.
I would just want to go to those barbecues. All those big, tough dudes trying to bulk up. You know it'd be some good meat there.
I'm hungry just thinking about it.
So before John kind of took over, wrestlers wouldn't stay in the sport for very long because guys would have to leave to take care of their families. But with the Foxcatcher team, you could still train and participate, and then in the evenings, hang out with your family, not have to worry about any money or housing. So it was a brilliant idea.
Yeah, it's perfect.
I just want to take a minute to talk about the interviews with John. He has the wettest lips of any grown man I've ever seen. I hated every second of it.
Are they wetter than Stan in Love After Lockup?
Yes.
Because those lips were disturbing.
Or maybe it was different lighting and this guy's was much brighter because it was just, you could see a reflection.
Real moist.
Oh, God. It was
glistening.
So gross. After a while, people start to figure out that John is a little eccentric.
Weird. Just not there.
I mean, he's a weird rich dude. Like, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's par for the course. I mean,
at one point he drove his car into a pond for no reason,
and then they gave him a rental car and he fucking drove into it.
Yeah, he gets a loaner car and does the same thing
with someone in the back seat.
And I'm like, why did you do that? I don't know.
Just fucking wild.
Are you saying I don't know to the first time or the second time?
Yeah. Like,
how do you... It makes me think of The Office when Michael was just following.
And having it turn right. He's like, no, Michael, don't turn right.
Right to the pond. And
it says turn right. It says turn right.
And it's so slow into that pond. He's also, at this point, starting to become more obvious with his anger issues. But Dave seems to be the only person who can kind of sort of keep him in check, talk him back down.
Yeah, he was like his best friend at that point.
I feel like we all kind of grew up with someone like John, though, like kind of really withdrawn and doesn't know how to socialize with his peers.
And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like I can be that way. Like I'm definitely not a super social person. I tend to be awkward and just not quite sure of what to say and do. But like, and he, you know, he blamed it on the fact that like he grew up alone and, you know, didn't.
Yeah, he was basically raised by maids or help until he was like 13.
Yeah, he wasn't allowed to eat with his family until he was like 13. Or like, I imagine it's weird growing up rich, but like, I think a lot of it was just that he was not mentally like.
I feel like he's the weird guy at a party where if people aren't paying attention to him, he doesn't know how to like bring the focus back on him, so he's like, just check out this sword I have.
Yeah,
like, that kind of shit, just out of nowhere.
Yeah, like, or like, hey guys, I have a gun.
Yeah,
like, just like really fucking weird shit that you're like, whoa, like we're not cool with that. But like, he's okay with the negative attention because you know it's back on him.
Yeah, he seems very intelligent, and then we'll just do something super dumb and immature, just shit every now and then, like just driving the car into a pond.
Yeah, I feel like he was kind of like a child.
He's definitely an odd dude, and then growing up fucking rich as shit to the point that your parents don't even deal with you, just the maids. That's gotta fuck you up completely. But I really can't trust someone who refers to his mom as mother. It's so chilling. I remember my oldest called me that as a joke, and I was like, no, do not ever do that.
Honestly, like, the transition from, like, mommy to mom was traumatic enough for me that, like, mother, like, fuck that.
Do not call me that.
Or, like, mother dear, like, any of that shit. No. Like, that's fucking serial killer vibes, okay? Like, you don't ever fucking call me that. Like, I would rather you call me by my name than call me mother.
It's like, oh, you're, like, in your 50s or 60s. What are you doing?
Yeah, just gross.
So John becomes super attached to Dave and his family. The Schultzes were basically the family he didn't get to have growing up.
Yeah, they were having, like, Thanksgivings together and Christmases. Like, they were, like, legit family.
Which has to be hard for Dave because he can't say no to John. He's just too nice. John is the reason Dave's able to still wrestle and take care of his family, so it's a tough situation. And eventually John wants to be like the wrestlers.
Which was so uncomfortable to watch. The part where he's like, they're like wagging his arms and his fucking old man flab is just like bouncing around. I'm just like, oh my god. Like, somebody like pin his arms back.
He is in his late 50s, I think, at this point.
Yeah, he was like 55.
Trying to wrestle with these younger guys who are so terrified they're going to snap him in half.
So they're like fake wrestling with him just to make him feel good.
Despite his only prior wrestling experience as a freshman in high school, he began competing again at the age of 55 in the 1992 Veterans World Championship in Cali, Colombia. Following that, in 1993 in Toronto, Ontario, and then 1995 in Sofia, Bulgaria. What the fuck? That is the ultimate midlife crisis.
Yeah, well, I mean, the ending, like, it just, you know, it's
Spoiler
fucking
alert.
hilarious.
He's not an athlete.
No, he's not. He's not. I mean, he's, like, relatively fit for an old guy, because, like, you know, when you get older, like, it's harder. Fuck, I'm only, like, 30, and it's hard for me to stay in shape.
Next to
but, like,
these guys,
yeah,
it's
he's
laughable.
Not super fit. He's a fucking dude in his, like, late 50s who has, like, you know, like I said, they're, like, waving his arms around, and his, like, old man arm flab is like waving in the air like fucking gelatin. Like, he's not an athlete. He was basically pretending to be one, so he was like part of the team.
Well, it's worse than that because old people do not wrestle, so they're having to hire these guys to wrestle.
Well, and that's what's so funny is he was
could
faking
win.
it.
Yes.
They were paying these dudes to wrestle him and let him win. Like, he was literally just like pretending. It's like when you have like a small toddler and you're like, yeah, you're really good at that. Like, I mean, just, it was sad.
And they show the match and it's so obvious.
It is so sad. It was, it reeked of like desperation to be a part of the crowd.
Yeah, in his mind, he feels like he's the younger athletes that he's hanging out with, and it's just, it's so sad.
And it's,
and I don't know how he still has money because he's basically just buying friends.
He was, absolutely.
He had to spend so much on this.
And I won't, like, that's not to say that, like, some of these guys didn't really, like, genuinely care for him and, you know, want to be there to some extent, but, like, he was, like, throwing money around to be social and learn how to be a part of that.
He's just paying for flights. He's got his own jet that they're flying everywhere on.
He's paying for them to live and to work and just, you know, everything. He's fucking supporting them 1,000%. And
then it doesn't help that he's also throwing money at the local police. He allows them to come onto his property to practice shooting. He's paid $1 every year so he could be a reserved officer and get
have
his
a
picture,
uniform
and get his picture taken with the other cops.
He's literally, it's like he's a child who never grew up and he's just getting to, like, live out these, like, fantasies, like getting to be a wrestler and getting to be a cop and doing all these other things. Like,
it's so sad.
It really is.
Every hunting season, the cops are coming to hang out with him to go hunting, which obviously you can't hunt on that land unless you're invited on. So, of course, they're going to be like, yeah, let's hang out with this guy.
Yeah, we're friends. Like,
yeah, of course. To the rest of us, that sounds terrifying for a rich dude to be friends with cops. Like,
he doesn't need any more.
That just tells me you can get away with anything. The cops aren't going to do jack shit about it. Look at how many times OJ got away with beating Nicole because the cops would show up and want his autograph.
Yeah. It pays to be a rich white person or just fucking rich in general.
Yes. And then that piece of shit had the gall to raise the Foxcatcher farm flag above the flag of the United States of America.
I loved that part when the cop was just like, he just did what he wanted. He's like, he even raised the flag higher. It's just like...
That's how you know you're rich.
I mean, you know, with Boy Scouts to deal with the flag and, you know...
And then he just drives around with his rifle so he could hunt as he drove.
Which is not cool, man. Not cool at all.
Just
it's
popping
against
it out
the
the
law.
window while he's driving by, just shooting at deer.
Yeah.
Totally acceptable.
Not fucking cool. Just like... Who the fuck fuck is shooting a rifle at their car window?
While he's driving, like, that old Lincoln or something. What the fuck?
Fucking eccentric.
So despite all this, at some point, John's starting to get super paranoid. To the point he's recorded hours of just the woods. Insisting someone or something is in there.
And then he's having them watch the hours of footage and be
did
like,
you see that?
Did you see that?
What we had to say, we did.
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, some of them encouraged him and some of them didn't. And, you know,
My favorite was he thought there were tunnels under his house.
And Dave was going through these tunnels. Just like, this is fucking your house. Do you think Dave built these tunnels under your house? Like, what the hell?
Just to mess with you.
Yeah, no, just to fuck around. Like, it's your family's property. When would Dave have built these tunnels?
When did he have the time? The fact that these guys are still spending time with him, socializing with him, I felt they really did care about him.
Yeah, they were so worried about him that they were taking shifts, staying in the house with him, watching over him. They'd be like, okay, well, like, you know, I'm done at 9:30, and then, like, someone else would come along and stay until, like, 11:30 or whatever. Like,
it didn't seem like they were just doing it because of the money. Like, they really did care about him, especially Dave.
No, Dave for sure was, you know,
truly cared about
they
him.
had a close bond. They were really good friends, and he was worried about him. And, you know, meanwhile, he's like, Dave's going through tunnels under my house.
Yeah.
Fucking weird.
Valentin Jordanov was a Bulgarian wrestler that John took under his wing. So much so that John decided to sponsor the Bulgarian wrestling team and
pretend that he is Bulgarian.
You can't with that bullshit. Your name is
Dupont. You are literally
French.
Yeah. He was like...
That's the most well-known French name.
Yes. He literally said he was fucking Bulgarian, and I'm just like, no.
Your family's so rich, you can look back.
Your family
at each generation. French. Your French is shit.
My Bulgarian heritage. There is no Bulgarian heritage. You are French. Like, you cannot pretend this.
He gets even more paranoid. He hires security with military background and grows to fear the color black because
so much
it represents
so.
Death.
Dude, wild. He tells, like, he won't let them have, like, black cars. He fires all the black wrestlers. That should have been the turning point where everyone's just like, we're fucking leaving.
This is when you leave. He obviously has issues.
And I can't believe that nobody, you know, what happened to, like, the solidarity of, like, you know, they're fucking, and he's like, oh, I don't want anyone to think I'm racist. Bro, you fired all the black wrestlers. You're fucking racist at this point. Like, whatever your motive. He just doesn't, he's not cool with the color black.
Yeah, he doesn't understand why people are telling him that what he is doing is racist. And the U.S.
That point, I was just like, whoa.
The U.S. Wrestling Committee just lets it happen because they don't want to lose that piggy bank, which that is such bullshit.
It was the biggest red flag. When he won't let you have a car on the property because it's black, when he fires all the
He got rid of the black horses.
Yeah, got rid of all the black horses. Yeah, he literally, that was the point where everyone should have been like, he's not doing well. He should probably see a doctor.
And then they figure out he's a cokehead. Which, that explains some of it.
He was staying up all hours of the night.
It's shocking how long it took them to figure out that he was doing coke.
I think that him being up all hours of the night would have been like the first indicator.
Not sleeping and just walking around with a handgun. Like, none of that screams drugs, coke, at the very least. I just want to remind you, there are families living on this property. He's just walking around with guns.
Small children. And he's, like, getting increasingly more paranoid about, like, Dave, especially. Like, he just, you know, talking to, like, the security firm that he hires and everything. And I feel like they do have a lot of blame for not shutting all of that down, too. Mm-hmm. Like, a lot of, like, you know, they were fine with taking his money and being like, okay, yeah, sure, we'll, like, put more cameras up and we'll, like, look into the tunnels that you're talking about.
They dug into the ground to look for these tunnels that didn't exist.
They knew that he was clearly having some kind of psychotic break, and they were just like, yeah, sure, you know, pay us and we'll look for these tunnels and we'll, like, keep an eye on this Dave fella.
So stupid. And it's not until John pulls a gun on a wrestler and then sets another house on fire before people are starting to go, okay, maybe there's something wrong with this guy. But nothing happens because Dave sticks up for John, which is very unfortunate. Soon after, even Dave is put on John's shit list. John's interest in wrestling had begun to wane the previous year, and he advised USA Wrestling that the $400,000 annual contribution he had been making to the organization since 1989 would cease. With that, Dave Schultz informs John that he would be leaving Foxcatcher after the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta to accept a coaching position at Stanford University. Dave just wants to stick it out because
he wants to
the Olympics
go to the
are
Olympics,
6 months, and this is going to be his last chance to wrestle because he's almost 40. So January 26, 1996, a huge snowstorm had hit Pennsylvania the previous day.
Their home videos.
John grabs a camera and his gun and joins up with his security guy, Patrick Goodale. They're driving around the property so John can check damage around.
He's like fences and trees that had been knocked down by the storm. And
they pull up to Dave's house, and as Dave is walking towards the car, John just fires the gun at him, and Dave is hit 3 times. So we don't know how many times he actually fired, but Dave's hit 3 times. Patrick's sitting right next to John in the passenger seat.
And he's like, what the fuck? Like, it literally, like, just out of nowhere. No warning, no indication, nothing. He just fucking shoots the guy. They hadn't even,
had a conversation. He just drove up and just started shooting at him. So, yeah, Patrick's in the passenger seat. He gets out of the car. Dave's wife, Nancy, is also a witness. She goes running over to Dave. And then John just drives back to the house.
Yeah, like, no big deal.
He gets to his house and holds up there for 2 days while police negotiate with him. The frustrating thing is the cops let him sleep.
Okay, yeah. So during the interview, when they're like, okay, the negotiations ended around 9 p.m. as the suspect went to sleep or whatever, and they're like, why is he allowed to sleep? Dude, fucking Waco, they didn't let those fuckers sleep. No, they kept him up all hours.
What was that other one where they just like firebombed the neighborhood?
When you are under fucking hostage negotiations, well, I guess there were no hostages, but when you're fucking negotiating with somebody who is literally a fucking criminal, you just murdered someone.
Yeah.
You don't fucking let him sleep. In fact, like, if you're gonna let him sleep, why don't you bust in the middle of the night? No, they waited. Just, made me sick.
That's what happens when you're rich and white. They finally capture him almost 50 hours later when he came out to fix his heater after they turned off the power. And no one can find any motive for this. Nothing.
Literally, none.
So, of course, he pleads not guilty by reason of insanity, which the insanity defense was thrown out by the court, and on February 25th, 1997, a jury found him guilty of third-degree murder, but mentally ill. In Pennsylvania, third-degree murder is a lesser charge than first-degree, which is intentional, or second-degree, a killing occurring during the perpetration of a felony, and indicates a lack of intent to kill, which fuck you.
Yeah,
he hit him he fired at least 3 shots.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Absolutely no.
He went out of his way to drive over there and shot.
Just completely disgusting.
How does he not have any intent to kill? It's bullshit. The jury verdict of guilty but mentally ill meant the sentencing would be referred to the judge, Patricia Jenkins. He could have been sentenced from anywhere from 5 to 40 years, but the judge kind of met in the middle, and he was sentenced to 13 to 30 years. Following the guilty verdict, Nancy Schultz filed a wrongful death lawsuit against John. The amount of the settlement was not disclosed. However, the Philadelphia Inquirer, citing anonymous sources, reported that Dupont was to pay Schultz at least $35 million.
She should have gotten everything.
Yeah. John's attorney filed appeals. In 2000, his case reached the Supreme Court, which upheld the verdict. He was first eligible for parole on January 29th, 2009, and it was denied. His maximum sentence would have ended January 29th, 2026, when he would have been 87. However, John died at the age of 72 on December 9th, 2010, from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD. God damn it. I can hear it in my fucking head. He was buried in his red Foxcatcher wrestling singlet.
That was the part that I just could not believe. They buried this man in his wrestling outfit.
In accordance with his will. I guess his family has their own cemetery in Wilmington, Delaware. To date, he's the only member of the Forbes 400 richest Americans to be convicted of murder.
That's not to say that, like, others haven't committed murder. Maybe they just haven't been caught, you know?
He was convicted. God, this is the weirdest part. After his arrest, he ordered all the buildings at Foxcatcher Farm to be painted black. Which I know one of them, they didn't even like finish. You could see that one section where they like ran out of paint. And we're like,
he's not gonna fucking see him. He's in prison.
Like, why are you even bothering?
Yeah, I would just paint
the front when you're driving by.
Dude, I wouldn't even fucking paint shit. I'd take his money and not do anything.
Just take a bucket and just
slosh some paint over.
Pour it
also,
on there.
Why does he even have his money when he's in fucking prison? They should have taken everything, seized all of his fucking assets. All of it should have gone to his victim's family.
The 90-year-old Dupont mansion, Lysander Hall, in which he was raised and lived in for 57 years, was demolished by Glenn Miller Demolition in January 2013, which that company name just makes me laugh. Like, I was imagining an orchestra player just, like, knocking the building over with a trombone. I hear Glenn Miller, that's what I think of. Glenn Miller and his demolition crew. The mansion stood on 400-acre portion of the property that is now being developed by Toll Brothers into a master plan community of 449 luxury homes called Lysander Estate. Most of the outbuildings were torn down, though an existing 7,000 square foot historical barn will be used as a clubhouse in the new development. Just tear it all down. Just burn the land.
Yeah, just gotta start fresh.
And what about his money? His will bequeathed 80% of his estate to Valentin Jordanov.
He was obsessed with him.
And 20% to the Eurasian Pacific Wildlife Foundation. In June 2011, John's niece Beverly Dupont Goggle and nephew William H. Dupont filed a petition to challenge the will in Media, Pennsylvania, asserting that John was not of sound mind when he made his will. The petition claims that during the period, John asserted alternately that he was Jesus Christ, the Dalai Lama, and a Russian Tsar.
I will agree that he was not...
That's just coke.
I will agree that he was not of sound mind when he made his will. Like, he definitely, like...
Not Bulgarian, a Russian Tsar.
Which is it, okay? You can't be all three. Fuck. But he seriously...
That's the ultimate craziness. I'm Jesus. Like, that's everybody.
I think that was a motivator for, like, why he killed him. I think that he was jealous of Dave. Dave was, you know, the person that everybody loved. He was social and friendly and just this great guy, and I think he was jealous of that. And I think he was jealous of Dave's relationship with the other wrestlers.
Well, like, Dave was leaving, and he's not going to allow that.
And that footage they showed of him in the car, like, John's in the front seat and, like, Dave sitting in the back with...
where you just see that little bit of darkness.
Yeah.
And they took it as a joke.
Yeah, no, it was not a joke. No. He was jealous because Dave was speaking in Russian to the other guy, and he didn't know what they were saying, and, like, he was pissed. He definitely...
So he's like, I'll fucking kill them all, and then he kind of does a laugh, but then he just looks forward, does not move.
No,
and
he was
like, oh,
serious.
He's joking. I'm like, no, dude, that was...
1,000, yeah. It was that part. I was just
he
like,
let that slip a little bit.
Shit, like you could see the real him, and it was not pretty. Like he definitely was jealous, and I think that was a big part of it. Just disgusting.
So their petition was dismissed, and while appealed, the Superior Court of Pennsylvania has upheld a Delaware County Orphans Court order. Didn't know that was a thing. Dismissing a challenge on the will on November 9th, 2012. Former Delaware County Court of Common Pleas President Judge Joseph Cronin dismissed the challenge for lack of standing, finding that because the niece and nephew were not named in two successive wills going back to 2006, they would not be harmed if the September 2010 will was deemed valid. Which, yeah, you guys haven't been fucking mentioned, but you think you deserve this money? That's so greedy.
I imagine they must have gotten something, like, in the original. I mean, not in, like, his will, but, like, I mean, it's a huge fucking family estate and
Yeah,
finances.
I feel like they don't even need the money, but they don't want that money going to anybody else outside of the family.
Which, I mean, I guess I understand, like, not wanting it to go to some random wrestler that he was just, like, obsessed with. But they had to have had something in the past from, like, their family members, like, their parents and their grandparents. Like, just...
After Schultz's murder, 20 former Foxcatcher athletes were left without training or coaching resources 6 months before the 1996 Olympic Games. Schultz's widow founded Dave Schultz Wrestling Club in March 1996 to sponsor the stranded wrestlers through the Olympics. Which, that's sad that the widow has to do it, not the rich asshole.
Yeah, she should have gotten all of his money. All of it.
The club succeeded beyond the initial goal and continued to train athletes in both men and women's freestyle and Greco-Roman wrestling until it closed in 2005. Among the wrestlers who competed under Dave Schultz's WC sponsorship were Olympic gold medalists Kurt Angle, Brendan Slay, Patricia Miranda, and Stephen Neal. So that's cool. Since Schultz's death, USA Wrestling has hosted the annual Dave Schultz Memorial International Wrestling Meet at the United States Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Which I feel like, I don't know if they're doing it like out of guilt, like they kind of failed him, or if they are like actually recognizing like what he did for the sport. In 1997, Schultz was posthumously inducted into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Hall of Flame?
How did it get posthumously but not? Inducted into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame as a distinguished member. The singlet Kurt Angle wore in his early World Wrestling Federation career was a tribute to Schultz. ESPN Films featured the story of Dupont and Team Foxcatcher in the 2015 30 for 30 series film, The Prince of Pennsylvania. Olympic wrestling champion Mark Schultz, the younger brother of Dave, wrote Foxcatcher, the true story of my brother's murder, John Dupont's madness, and the quest for Olympic gold. And also the 2014 movie Foxcatcher with Steve Carell as John, Mark Ruffalo as Dave, and Channing Tatum, or Charming Tater, as my husband would like to call him, plays Dave's brother Mark.
I imagine he had a play in casting.
Yeah, Steve Carell as John.
Oh, I want that hot young dude to play me.
So you enjoyed it?
I did. I really liked it. It was definitely, I mean, I would say that it was kind of up there with Dear Zachary and like the whole like feeling, like when his son talks about how like everyone talks about what a great person his dad was, and you know all these things that he did, and he talks about how like he doesn't really have any memories of that. Like that fucking killed me because his kids were so young when he was murdered. And oh god, the scene like when they're at the funeral and like all the kids are just playing and stuff,
because they have no idea.
They don't understand what, you know, death is really. And not even just death, but like the fact that he was taken for no reason, just like absolutely out of nowhere. Just it was definitely like they made you feel for Dave, they made you like really love the guy, and then bam, just fucking
because he was constantly smiling and laughing.
He was adorable, like the, you know, when he's like hanging out with his kids, like all the videos, like he definitely seemed like an amazing dad and a great husband and a loving person. And you know, everyone, like the fact that he learned Russian so that he could like
be a better wrestler and understand like
just like that alone, I mean, is a huge. And I think John is jealous of all that. Like he saw that he was a better person, and it's fucking gross. But I can't believe that fucker. Like, I'm just like, how is he having shit painted on his land from prison?
I know, like why is anybody doing this?
Like, why does he have any money? That should have all been seized, given to the widow, and he should be
fact
fucking.
That they let him sleep.
No, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? You're in a hostage. Why do I keep saying hostage? You're in a negotiation with someone. Like, no, like if he says he's going to sleep, you say, all right, and then you fucking bust in with the tear gas and fucking take him out. Like, I cannot believe. And then when he was just like, you gotta turn the heat back on. Like, it's really cold. And then, like, they're just like, we'll see what we can do about that. And he's like, can I go check on it? And, like, they're just like, yeah, sure.
It felt like BTK. Like, yeah, sure, you could send it a floppy drive. We're not
we
floppy
can't
disk.
trace
We
that.
can't trace that.
Yeah. We're just like, how fucking dumb are you? He just, like, walks
You're not
out.
gonna arrest me if I walk out, right? No.
Yeah, no. I don't believe anything the cops say, ever. And I'm a white woman. I'm like, fuck. He's just like, all right, I'm coming out. Like, I'm going to be wearing black. And they're like, you're not going to be armed, are you? And he's like, no. And they're like, you better not be armed. He's like, I won't be armed. He's like, then he's surprised that they come out and, like, fucking arrest him. Like, bro, you murdered someone. Like,
Jesus.
I can't believe they let you sleep. Should have been fucking shining floodlights and playing loud fucking trash music.
What is it they did with Waco? The rabbit screaming?
Yes. Like, bright lights and, like, God, like, fucking, and there were children in there.
It's just some old fucker who won't put the coat down.
Seriously. Ugh. Absolutely disgusting. Just another case where it shows, like, you can get away with anything as long as you're rich.
At least he ended up dying in prison. He was in prison long enough.
Well, and it was even sad when the daughter talks about how, like, she was sad that he died because everyone was happy about it. Like, that is heartbreaking. That, like, despite the fact that he took her father from her when she was just a small child, and she's still upset that, like,
everybody's happy he's dead.
Yeah.
Just that's sad for somebody to be that hated.
Yeah.
Have nobody love you, and that's a sweet family. That's a good family.
It really is. Just.
Oh, and then at the end when she's walking through the old house.
Yeah, and she's like, oh, you know, this is, was it Danny? Was it Danielle?
Yeah, it was the daughter.
Yeah, she was like, you know, this is her nursery, and
then there was still moving boxes.
Yeah.
From when they originally moved in.
Yeah, like for the little boy's room, and just, see.
That had to be so hard for her to go back there.
Yeah, because, like, they had, like, this happy little life, and then, bam.
Just out of nowhere. No reason.
So, yeah, it's a good documentary. Makes you really feel all the feelings. Because just, you really you're like, man, this guy seems really cool. Like, he's always smiling, he's always happy.
For nothing.
For nothing, yeah. There's definitely another Dear Zachary where it's just like, why? Why did you do this to me?
No dead kids, though.
No dead kids. God, fuck Dear Zachary.
Join us next week as we learn about John Benet Ramsey. No,
no, I can't. I can't do that one.
All right, well, join us next week. Talk to you then.
We'll do something with murder, I'm sure.
There's plenty.
Plenty of murder. Right, have a good night.
Could it be each other?
What?
Okay, bye.
Bye.